I never caught her in the act. I didn't need to. The lies were too perfect, rehearsed, like I was living in someone else's play. And while she thought I was breaking quietly, I was documenting everything. This isn't a story about a broken marriage. It's about what happens when a man stops begging for love and starts standing for truth. Here's what really happened. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Every day, I share interesting life stories with you. Today, I want to share another touching story with you. So enjoy listening. You don't hear betrayal coming. It doesn't slam the door. It leaves it slightly ajar, just enough for the draft of suspicion to crawl in. Looking back, I don't remember the moment I lost her, but I remember the silence that followed. It was deafening. I used to believe that routine was the foundation of love. That if you did the right things, showed up on time, remembered anniversaries, washed the dishes without being asked, your marriage would hold. I was wrong. Routine is where betrayal festers best. My name is Mark. I am 42, a high school literature teacher. Not flashy, not rich, but honest. That's always been my currency, honesty. And maybe in some twisted way, that was the problem. For years, I told myself we were just in a phase. Laura, my wife of 14 years, had been growing distant. Less laughter, more sighs. Her eyes didn't light up anymore when I spoke. She said it was work stress. The firm's bleeding hours, she claimed, typing in her laptop late into the night while I sat 2 feet away on the couch, a world apart. We used to sit closer. We used to be closer. Sometimes I'd walk into the room and find her quickly closing her phone like a reflex. And every time I asked, something wrong, she'd respond with the same tired smile. You worry too much. I did. I worried too much because I loved too much. I noticed the details, the extra perfume, the secretive texts, the weekend conferences that always seemed to be just out of town. But I stayed quiet. I stayed quiet because I was afraid of the answer. We had one child, Eli, 11 years old, a quiet, intuitive kid who observed more than he spoke. He had Laura's eyes in my silences. The first real crack in a mirror came one night when I got home early from school. It was Friday, rainy. My last class had been canceled due to a fire drill. I didn't call ahead. I thought I'd surprise her, maybe grab takeout and pretend we were still 30. The house was too quiet. Her car was in the driveway, but the lights in the kitchen were off. I walked upstairs. I wasn't trying to snoop. I just felt something. That's when I heard her, in the bathroom, whispering, the kind of whisper meant for someone intimate. She said a name, Jason. I didn't move, didn't breathe. She laughed softly on the other side of the door, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard in months. And it wasn't for me. When she emerged 10 minutes later, towel wrapped around her head, she acted surprised to see me. Oh, you're home early, she said, masking the slight tremble in her voice. I nodded. I missed you, I lied. And then I kissed her on the forehead. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe I needed to know if she would flinch. She didn't. That night, I lay in bed next to her, eyes open in the dark, staring at the ceiling. She had turned away, her breathing even and unbothered. I realized then that I wasn't fighting for our marriage anymore. I was fighting for the truth and for my dignity. The next morning, I began to pay attention. I started writing things down, notebooks, times, names. I became an investigator in my own life, a silent archivist of betrayal. Her texts became more frequent. She'd leave the room when answering calls. I installed an app, nothing fancy, just one of those family locator apps. I told her it was for Eli's safety, but I used it to track her patterns. Every Thursday night, downtown, every Sunday afternoon, the corner cafe near Jason's law firm. I confronted her. Not directly. Not yet. I asked her how her team meetings were going. She said, grueling. That was the moment I knew. She was lying effortlessly. They say betrayal feels like a knife. But to me, it felt more like water filling your lungs slowly, one breath at a time until you realize you're drowning and she's already on the shore, drying off. I didn't scream, didn't throw plates. Instead, I smiled because I realized if she could lie so well, then I could hide the truth even better. She had no idea that I knew, and I planned to keep it that way, at least until I had enough. Enough proof, enough calm, enough courage to walk into hell without flinching. And I would. Because I wasn't fighting for love anymore. I was fighting for myself. You think when the truth hits you, it'll come with a scream, a slammed door, a dramatic confession. But sometimes it's just a silence that lasts 1 second too long. That's when I knew. She was his. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I always hated Tuesdays. Pointless day, nothing beginning, nothing ending. And yet, that's the day everything changed. Laura was standing by the kitchen counter, her back to me, texting rapidly. She didn't hear me walk in. She used to turn around the second she heard the keys. But now she didn't flinch until I said her name. Laura. She jumped, locking her phone. A reflex. Not guilt. Not panic. A well-practiced reflex. God, Mark, you scared me. She laughed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. You're home early again? Again. Like early was a threat. I forgot my laptop. I lied. Midterm papers. She smiled. Too smooth. Then came a text sound. A soft chime from her phone. She ignored it. I didn't. I saw the screen light up with Jason's name. There it was. Naked. No more shadows. The blood in my body rushed to my ears. I stared at the screen. She noticed and quickly turned it face down. I said nothing. She said nothing. We just stood there. I could feel my entire marriage hanging in the air like a thread of smoke. She tried to pivot, walking past me. You seeing Jason? I asked. Quietly. Too quietly. She froze mid-step. I watched her shoulders tense, the breath she took before turning around. And then she lied. Without blinking. Jason from a firm? Don't be ridiculous. It was that second lie, not the affair, that broke me. I nodded as if I bought it. Because I needed her to keep lying. I needed her to think I was still blind. Because now I had new purpose, exposure. 2 days later, I met Jason. I waited for him outside his office like a man looking for a lost dog. He was taller than I expected. Confident. Younger than Laura, older than me. When he saw me, he smiled, extending a hand. Can I help you? You already are, I replied. He blinked, confused. Sorry, do we know each other? I'm Mark, Laura's husband. He froze. And just like that, he knew. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't punch him. I just looked at him long enough for him to understand that I wasn't there to beg. I wasn't there to plead for my marriage. I was there to study the man who had replaced me. To confirm one thing. Was he worth the destruction? Jason stuttered something. An apology, maybe. I don't remember. I just said, keep her. You'll need a lot more than charm. Then I turned and walked away. My hand was shaking. Not from rage, but from the ice forming in my chest. That night, I didn't speak to Laura. I didn't confront her. I kissed her goodnight and told her I loved her. I watched her flinch. And that's when I knew she was afraid. She couldn't read me anymore. Good. The next few weeks were a chessboard. I started collecting. Phone logs. Location data. Financial statements. She'd been using our shared card at a boutique hotel near the city. Booked under his initials. Her passwords? Week. Patterns from Eli's birth date, our wedding anniversary. She never changed them. I guess when you think someone's harmless, you stop locking the doors. But I wasn't harmless anymore. I was quiet, and I was watching. I kept journals, took screenshots. I printed texts, cross-checked dates with her alibis. It wasn't obsession. It was preservation. Because if I was going to leave this marriage, I wanted her to know it was her who handed me the blade. Then came the real twist. The kind that redefined betrayal. I came home from school one day to find Laura and Eli laughing on the couch. A rare moment. He leaned into her shoulder. She looked up and smiled at me. The smile of a woman pretending nothing was broken. That's when I saw it. Eli's drawing on the coffee table. A house. 3 people. One of them was crossed out. I picked it up. Hey, bud. I asked, who's this with the X? He looked up at me and said, I don't know. Just someone who stopped coming around. My heart split like dry wood. Laura said nothing. She had already taught our son to erase me. That night, I poured a drink. I didn't cry. I sat in the dark and made a vow. If she was ready to erase me from the story, then I was going to write the ending myself. Gaslighting isn't loud, it's subtle. A twist of the truth, a tilted mirror. And if you're not careful, you start to question everything. But I stopped questioning the moment she told me. You're imagining things, Mark. By the 3rd week, I'd learned to breathe in rooms full of lies. She'd mastered the art of fabrication, just enough truth to dull the blade, just enough distance to keep the guilt from sticking. I wasn't watching Laura anymore. I was studying her. Every gesture, every flick of her eyes, the way she cleared her search history every night like a ritual. She never used to do that. One night, she came home late. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the lamp casting long shadows. She kissed me on the cheek, her lips cold, and said sorry. Late meeting. I looked at my watch. Your firm's office lights have been off since 6 p.m. She blinked, hesitated. I had drinks with colleagues after. You know how demanding my week's been. Line number 42. I didn't flinch. Colleagues. I asked casually. Which ones? She paused, forced a laugh. God, Mark, why are you being so weird lately? And there was again the reframe. Not her deception. My paranoia. It would have worked 6 months ago. It didn't now. She started acting nicer, strangely affectionate, cooking my favorite meals. Watching shows with me, she used to roll her eyes at. Fake comfort. I knew what it was, preemptive guilt management. One night, she came into the bedroom wearing a silk robe she hadn't worn in 2 years. I didn't touch her. She noticed. What's wrong with you lately? She asked, the edge finally bleeding into her voice. You've been so cold. You should ask Jason, I said without even looking up. Her silence was thunder. She stood still for a long time. You went through my phone? No, I didn't have to. The following morning, she changed tactics. Apologies. Tears. I've been under stress. It wasn't cheating, she claimed. It was emotional confusion. Emotional confusion. I wrote that one down in my notebook. That week, she booked a couples therapy session. It was laughable. She talked about communication breakdown, how she'd felt unseen, how Jason was just a supportive friend. The therapist, a kind but overly gentle woman named Dana, looked at me like I was a wounded dog. I didn't argue. I nodded, smiled, played the fool. But after the third session, I stopped going. Not because I didn't care, but because therapy only works when at least one person isn't lying through their teeth. Meanwhile, I built my case. I had screenshots of hotel receipts, her text history, the audio recording from the kitchen when she whispered, "You make me feel alive again." Not to me, to him. I'd recorded everything. She didn't know, because she never asked me how my day was. Never noticed the phone I'd placed beneath the kitchen table or the spare key camera in my study. When you live with a liar, you learn to become a shadow. Then came the moment she tried to flip the script. It was Sunday. Eli was out with friends, and I was in the backyard when she walked up to me, arms folded. "We need to talk," she said. "Here it comes. I feel like you've been distant," she began. "Go on," I said, watering the tomatoes. "And maybe I haven't been perfect, but lately I've been feeling watched. Violated." She was trying to get ahead of it. She had sensed something, and now she was trying to brand me the aggressor. "I mean," she continued, "you're always around when I get home, asking weird questions, being controlling." Controlling. I looked up at her slowly. "Laura, did you just accuse me of controlling behavior?" She hesitated, eyes flickering. "No, I'm just saying this doesn't feel like us anymore." "You're right," I said quietly. "It doesn't." She bit her lip, stepped forward. "I think we should take a break. Maybe stay apart for a while. You need time, and I need space to think." The breakup on her terms. So she could say I pushed her away. So she could claim confusion, sadness, blurred lines. And to top it all off, she added softly, "I'm worried about Eli seeing you like this." Like what? Like a man who won't swallow betrayal and smile? I didn't argue. I simply asked, "Do you want the guest room, or should I take it?" She looked stunned. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd panic. But the truth is, I was done begging a long time ago. That night, I moved my things into the guest room, closed the door, and for the first time in months, I slept without fear. The next morning, I opened a private email account, created encrypted folders, reached out to a lawyer friend. Her name was Olivia. Brilliant, ruthless, ethical in the way a surgeon is, precise, clean, with no wasted motion. I sent her a single message. "I need help. I want to do this right, but I want to walk out with truth intact." Laura began to unravel after that. She'd pace the hallway outside the guest room, leave long text messages about how she still loved me in some way. She cried in the kitchen, loudly, She started accidentally leaving her phone around, open, hoping I'd snoop and find nothing but texts from girlfriends and Pinterest recipes. But I had stopped playing her game, because the next time I spoke, it would be through legal notice. When someone breaks you in silence, they never expect your voice to be the thing that destroys them. She thought I'd cry. She thought I'd collapse. She never thought I'd gather the facts and bring her to court. We stood side by side in the family court hallway. Her heels clicked nervously against the tile. She wore black, a silk blouse, minimal makeup, the picture of poise of regret. The kind of woman who could sell sorrow to a jury and make them buy guilt. She didn't look at me. I didn't look at her. Inside the courtroom, our son's drawings were tucked neatly inside a folder. Not to weaponize, just to remind myself why I couldn't let her rewrite the story. I wasn't there for custody. I wasn't there for vengeance. I was there for truth. We'd filed under irreconcilable differences. Clean, polite, sanitized. But what happened inside that room was anything but. Her lawyer spoke first, a young guy in a tailored suit. He painted Laura as the wounded partner, someone who felt emotionally neglected in a static marriage. He used phrases like, a partner who lost herself trying to be a mother and a wife. And her affair, while unfortunate, was a symptom, not the cause. I almost laughed. Then my lawyer, Olivia, stood up, graceful, spine like steel. She didn't raise her voice. She just presented the story. Phone logs, text messages, financial records, audio recordings, each one like a scalpel cutting away the lies. And then came the moment Laura truly began to unravel. Olivia held up a hotel receipt, dated the same night Laura claimed she was at a company dinner. She then referenced a text Laura sent me at 10:17 p.m. that night. Sorry, babe. Just heading back. Got caught up in client stuff. The judge raised an eyebrow. Laura shifted in her seat. Olivia calmly continued. Your Honor, my client has not only remained financially and emotionally committed throughout this marriage, but he's also been methodically gaslit, led to believe he was the problem. And yet, he's never retaliated, never embarrassed her. This isn't revenge. This is reclamation. It was my turn to speak. I stood, cleared my throat, looked at the woman I once vowed to protect. I'm not angry anymore. I began, surprising even myself. I'm not here to shame the mother of my child. She blinked, maybe expecting venom. But I refuse to be erased, I said. I refuse to let years of dignity be buried under false narratives. I was never perfect, but I was faithful, present, honest, and I will not apologize for wanting the truth in writing. Silence. I deserve that. My son deserves that. I turned to the judge. I don't want full custody. I want joint, because I believe Eli still needs his mother. But I will not allow her to manipulate reality in front of him. This hearing isn't about punishment. It's about closure. The judge leaned back, nodding slowly. Thank you, Mr. Winters. That was very clear. Laura's lawyer looked stunned. Even Laura looked smaller in her chair. For the first time in months, I felt something shift. She saw me, not the husband she cheated on, not the man she gaslit, but the version of me she couldn't control anymore. A week later, the judgment came in. Joint custody, as requested. No alimony, as Laura was found at fault. I retained the house. My collected evidence, submitted respectfully, was considered compelling and credible. No aplausos, no dramatic gabelban, just the quiet satisfaction of dignity being honored. That night, Laura sent a single text. I didn't think you had it in you. I didn't reply, because I'd never wanted to hurt her. I just wanted her to understand. You don't get to break someone and still control the story. People think healing is loud, like a Rocky montage, like Phoenix Fire. But sometimes it's just you, sitting at the kitchen table at 2 a.m., realizing it's quiet. Not because everything's okay, but because no one is lying to you anymore. 3 weeks after the court hearing, the silence in the house was still strange. Not peaceful, not sad, just honest. And that was enough. Eli adjusted faster than I expected. Maybe because he'd sensed it all before I did. Maybe because I didn't sugarcoat it. I told him, your mom and I had problems. We made mistakes. But I'll always be here. I'll always show up. He nodded. Asked only one thing. Did she lie to you, Dad? I could have said 1,000 things, but I looked him in the eyes and said the truth. Yeah, she did. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, "I'm glad you didn't lie to me." That was the moment I knew I'd made the right choice. Not in divorcing her, but in finally choosing me. People don't talk about what comes after the confrontation. They don't tell you that the anger fades and what's left is a slow ache, an emptiness you have to learn how to live in, like sleeping in one half of the bed and waking up still reaching for a ghost, or grocery shopping and hesitating at her favorite cereal before forcing yourself to walk past it. There were days I hated her, and days I missed her, and sometimes both feelings showed up at the same time. I started walking more. Late nights, headphones in, no destination. Just letting my mind bleed out under the street lamps. Music helped. So did writing. So did finally calling the friends I'd pushed away when I was trying to hide my failing marriage. "You sound lighter," my friend Darren said over the phone. "I think that's just the absence of lies," I replied. He was quiet a moment, then said, "You should write that down." I did. Laura and I kept things civil for Eli's sake. Drop-offs, pickups, quick texts about school. She once tried to talk, really talk, outside his school. Said things like, "I didn't think it would get this far. You weren't supposed to hate me." I just looked at her and said, "I don't hate you." And it was true. I didn't, because hate still meant I gave her space in my head. And I was finally taking that space back. The nights got easier. I picked up painting again. Not landscapes, not people, just shapes, colors, abstract messes that made no sense but felt honest. And slowly, something returned. Not joy exactly, but wholeness. Like walking barefoot after months in heavy boots. Like standing in your house and realizing, I'm not waiting for someone to come home anymore. Because I was home. One night, Eli sat beside me as I was painting. He didn't say anything for a while, just watched the brush move. Then he asked, "Are you okay now?" I paused, thought about it. "I don't know if I'm okay," I said, "but I'm not broken anymore." And that felt like the closest thing to healing I'd ever spoken out loud. Healing doesn't announce itself. One day you just realize your hands aren't clenched. The house doesn't feel like a battlefield. And the voice in your head isn't hers. It's yours. You don't feel like you've won, but you know you've survived. And that's enough. I woke up to sunlight on my face. No alarm. No anxiety dragging me out of bed. The air felt lighter. It had rained the night before, and the smell of wet grass snuck in through the open window. Eli was asleep in the next room. It was my weekend with him. And as I lay there listening to the quiet hum of the house, I realized I was content, not ecstatic, not euphoric, just okay. And after everything, okay felt like a damn miracle. I started rebuilding not just my routine, but my identity. I took a part-time position at a small community college, teaching creative writing. It paid less, but it filled me in a way my old job never had. I stopped avoiding mirrors, stopped checking Laura's social media, stopped waiting for closure I no longer needed. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself when you finally stop letting them live rent-free in your head. A few months later, I got invited to a gallery show. Local artists, raw talent. Nothing fancy. That's where I met her. Not someone new to save me. Not a rebound. Just a woman who asked what I painted and listened when I answered. Her name was Elise. We spoke for 2 hours before I realized I hadn't once thought about Laura the entire evening. She didn't flirt. She didn't pry. She just smiled and said, "You seem like someone who fought for himself." And I thought, yeah, I did. And I'm still fighting. But now I'm doing it with my head up. Eli asked me once if I'd ever get married again. I told him the truth. Maybe, maybe not, but I'll never lose myself again. He nodded like he understood. I think he did, because he's watching me now. Not a broken man, not a bitter one, but a father who finally stands tall. The house is different now. Same walls, same furniture, but none of it whispers her name anymore. I keep the journals, the audio files, the texts, not for revenge, but to remind myself that I didn't imagine it, that I made it through. One last thing. I wrote something just for me, not to publish, not to post online. It's taped inside my closet, where I see it every morning. You survived the betrayal, the manipulation, the loss. But more importantly, you found the only thing worth saving. Yourself. And that's how it ends. Not with forgiveness, not with revenge, but with freedom. Because the greatest twist in this whole story, she thought she'd broken me, but all she did was wake me up. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel for more inspirational stories. And before you go, check out the video on your screen. It's another heartwarming story you won't want to miss.